And welcome in to another episode of Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, here again with Justin Pemberton. How's it going, Justin?
Mac, even though it's evening time and we normally do this, during the day on a Tuesday or a Thursday, whatever time it is, it's good to be on. And I'm just glad I was able to make time for this because I was actually kind of afraid that I wouldn't be able to. I was kind of afraid I wouldn't be able to, jump onto this podcast tonight. But once again, I know you're just returning the favor for all the times when I've had you on my show when it was on ESPN Kansas City. And knock on wood, you'll get back on there hopefully sooner than later. But again, I appreciate the opportunity for coming on.
Yeah, and I hope that show comes back because it'd be fun to make a trip out there. And, those shows were at, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. Like, I was half asleep, but honestly, I'm probably more tired right now. I had a couple of my McRibs that Bobby owed me. I ate those before we came on. You said you were surprised you were able to make this work. I was surprised. I almost took a nap. There was almost no podcast this evening, but we did move it around just a little bit. We're going to have, twice as much action because we're not going to have the two podcasts this week like we normally do. We're going to hit one. We're going to talk about the NFL Week 14 action. And then once we finish up, there's not that much to talk about, honestly. I didn't realize how bad of a week it was until we were just getting prepped in the pre-show and just kind of figuring it out. And I looked at all the scores and I'm just like, oh yeah, there was only a couple of good games. But
I think it was a bad week just because I think the NFL was just finally wanting to kind of relax and just say, okay, this is going to be the week that we're not going to have to move games. So we're just going to keep everything where it's supposed to be at for once for this season. Because, who knows what the next 3 weeks are going to be like. But they're pretty close to having a pretty good full slate to where not too much bad was going on to where they're able to get through this whole pandemic. Yeah,
I thought I was a little sad when there wasn't a Tuesday game. I was like,
or a
Wednesday
Wednesday
night. I was like, I was just waiting. I was like, is there going to be a game? Like, is this going to happen? Nope, didn't happen. So I was a little sad on that.
Or a Wednesday or an extra Monday or throwing two more.
Extra Monday, man, those are good afternoon games.
I agree.
Like that was like you're just like, well, what do I do until Monday Night Football comes on? Like. Monday afternoon football comes on.
Yeah, there's more football at 3:40, and you maybe catch one at 5, and then of course you got your normal traditional 7:20 kickoff or 7:15, I guess.
So, it was a much more quiet week, and not just for that. I think no matter what it was just they had good primetime games. They're just outside of that, there wasn't a lot going on, and usually get some of those surprises, and I think most of the surprises this week were that interesting. But we'll talk about that, and then we'll move on to the NFL Week 15 slate of games. We'll have some bets. We'll try to move. I can't promise Max fast action bets. It's going to be Max sleepy time, get those done bets. I don't know how fast I can go, and I don't know how much energy I have, but we'll make it through on that. First game I want to talk about, the most recent one, the one that you had to send me a message down the stretch there because you got too excited. I think you might have jinxed the Browns even. We get a absolute shootout, which one of the weirdest shootouts being that I think they tied the record for most rushing touchdowns. But so many points up on the board, and it went down the stretch. And I'll get my jokes in a minute, but Lamar Jackson, no matter what took him out of the game, he made it back in, and they get the job done. You said for a minute you were like, oh, Browns could get into this divisional conversation, and not so much. They look good, but
it's not over yet.
There's only 3 games, man. They're down 2. That's going to be tough.
Hey, Pittsburgh still has a chance to lose it. They're looking pretty good right now.
I think at this point, I don't have a lot of faith that the Steelers can wrangle back that bye week. But
no,
I'm not even sure if mathematically, what it would take. Doesn't it take Steelers losing out, Browns winning out, or Ravens winning out, and other things to happen? I haven't seen if people have gone through that yet.
I don't know, man, but That game on Monday night was just crazy, and I want to start with Lamar Jackson because that whole thing was so bizarre. We didn't even see Lamar, limping or anything going into the locker room. So I'm going to assume there he looked or seemed fine. And then we see him run right back out as soon as what's his face, gets hurt, or I'll put quotes around that, gets hurt. I don't know if that was just some kind of like thing to mess with the Browns. That's my personal opinion. It was just some kind of thing. Oh,
how does that mess with them?
Here's our backup quarterback. So now you can think that Lamar's out. You get the chance to win. And then he gets hurt, and then here comes
very
Lamar.
elaborate, man. I can't imagine any team planning that.
But here comes Lamar, and he's running fast as he can to go back out there. So, you know what? I'm going to assume or think he didn't have cramps. That he was just done for a potty break.
Well, I mean, that's fair. So you brought in a whole nother conspiracy that we didn't even need, because the one that's on the table is already really good. I don't need to think whether they were messing with the Browns. In this case, the question is on everybody's mind. I mean, you seem to have already given your answer. Lamar Jackson immediately denied it, said, I was cramping, and I got to ask, which one do you go with? Was it cramping or was it crapping?
I think it was crapping. And he thinks that COVID had something to do with his cramping. I don't know how COVID could possibly affect, and I know we're just, a week or two removed from Lamar having COVID. So, maybe
it could, yeah. That sounds perfectly reasonable. Yeah, he did have the whatever like bandage on his like arm. So the idea that he was cramping and he went in for a quick IV, it matches up.
Okay,
but
that makes
a little
sense. This whole thing, regardless, was very fishy, very bizarre. But
you keep saying fishy. I don't know how much is. Once again, I think it's Occam's razor. It's the simplest explanation, which Lamar gave us a good enough one that with the evidence of the bandage, I guess I could take him at face value. But it's so much more fun to imagine the other simple explanation, which is he just needed to go take a crap, and that's what he did. And he was lighter when he came back out. I have to, I think we've all made the puns. He was running a lot. He got a lot of rushing touchdowns. Wasn't passing a lot at that point. He was pooped at that point. He was pooped, and he comes back and he just shits all over the Browns' playoff chances, or at least division winning chances. And he gets the dump. And it was a great finish. I enjoyed that game. That was entertaining. We saw basically both teams have to play outside of the norm. First it's Browns getting a lot of rushing touchdowns, but once again, Baker Mayfield had to throw down the field. He had to make plays to help get them, trying to win that game, trying to get back in the lead. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson had a really big day playing the way that the Ravens want to play with rushing. But once again, down the stretch, when you have to make those comeback attempts and score as fast as they were scoring, he's having to throw it down the field. And, he came up in this one for all the issues we've given him, all that, like he got it done. So this was very interesting that, it kind of always comes down to the loser ends up not getting the benefit. In this case, I think a lot of good takeaways from the Ravens, but maybe they didn't even get it. That bounce back to the reputation of Lamar Jackson kind of didn't work because all the conversation was about what reason he left the field rather than how good he played. And on the Browns side, you lose, but it's a tough game against a division rival that's also fighting for a playoff spot. And for you to be that close, I wouldn't take it as a negative, but also, looking at what they could do, I think that a lot more people would be talking about the positive, but you lose that game, and that's kind of, not the point. You're still in a tough position if you plan on trying to rally to get that division, and now you're in even a much tougher spot to even keep a hold of one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, and to kind of put Louis Riddick on the spot, not too much, but just a little bit. He mentioned about how these are not the same old Browns as we're used to seeing. Okay, one part is new with the Browns. They're better offensively, but Lewis, did you not watch the defense? Okay, that defense was total garbage. And I know the Ravens are they're talented offensively. Lamar can make you look silly a lot of times. I get that, but it's the same old Browns defense. And you've heard of the dog pound? Well, their defense should be known as the dog crap. Because I mean, their defense was just—it was basically that, and they were too unreliable in so many situations, and they just couldn't stop the Ravens. And I think that's where, if you're gonna, place any kind of blame on the loss for the Browns, it is exactly the defense. I mean, it's not Baker Mayfield this time around. Baker, he had his game. He played a great game. He had one crucial interception, or it was either a fumble or interception or something.
Yeah, an
Interception. Okay. So one little crucial mistake, early on, but overall he played his tail off. The offense was great. Kareem Hunt looked really good, kind of looking like he was, back when he was a Chief. And I think all the blame needs to be pointed towards that defense, because that defense stunk.
So you're going to do the same rant about the Ravens defense?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to a little bit, because they gave up 42 points. They were nowhere near better, but I guess, I mean, it's a 5-point difference. So Ravens get a little bit of a advantage on that side of the ball. But overall, it was a great game. It was a classic, and it was definitely worth to watch. And let's just see where it takes both these teams. Does this put the Ravens back in the conversation? Can they get back right into it and then go make a deep run in January? Or does this start putting the Browns in a Raiders type of tailspin, to where they can't recover from it, and they end up 9-7, and they miss out on the playoffs? We'll see.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing. It's such a slim margin, and this was, as you mentioned, were they possibly going to fight their way to get in with the Steelers if they hold this one off? If Lamar Jackson takes 2 more minutes on the stool, getting IV in the arm, then all of a sudden the Browns win, and they are in a spot, and the Steelers will have a lot of pressure on them down the stretch, more so than they have just from trying to get that bye week. So it was a important game on a lot of fronts. The Ravens end up getting the victory, and it was entertaining at the very least. I do want to see what both of these teams do from here, because
I do too.
How much did you exhaust in that game when for both of them? It's like this one did a lot for the Ravens to win. It hurt the Browns a lot to lose, but it's what you do in the following weeks that are going to be important for these teams, both still fighting to get one of those playoff spots. And looking down the next one on the list, the whole reason why this one had amplified in importance was the result of the Bills Steelers on Sunday night. So the Bills end up getting the victory 26-15. The Steelers have they're in a tough spot now, because what was 1 week where you get a loss and it's kind of like, well, you get a mulligan, everybody gets a mulligan. Now it is a trend of not only losing, because those happen, and expecting a team to, lose less than, 2 games in a season. It's crazy even when they're a good team. Like, the problem is, not only have they lost the last 2, they have not looked good in the games they won before that. It always seemed like there's something wrong here. Even when they were winning earlier in the year, they were more explosive than they are now. Now, the running game completely dead in the water. The passing game, which, the moment the announcers are talking about Big Ben has to get it out early, when we know that's not how Big Ben plays, it's like, that's a problem. And, when you're doing that, it's for one of 2 reasons. Either Big Ben has lost it. He has lost that, velocity on his arm, and they just know you can't let Big Ben play the way he used to. He's lost whatever agility will help him get away from the pass rush like he used to, because he's not the fastest guy, but he always found a way to buy himself some extra time and find guys down the field. one of the best sandlot, football players, one of the best quarterbacks we've had in a long time, just waiting for the play to break down and doing even more. But we haven't seen that from him this year. And the only real answers are either, this is their best solution for, when the defense can just send everything at you because you don't have a running game to keep them honest, or Big Ben is hurt and they're doing all they can to cover it. But when you don't have the running game and he's, even with these wide receivers, like there was a ceiling to how good they were playing when they were just killing over the middle, because Big Ben is not Drew Brees. It's not going to work the same way. Mm-hmm. And slowly but surely, those chickens came home to roost. And, even with that Steelers defense, like I think I mentioned this before. I wasn't sure, but I said this would be an important game to see what Josh Allen can do. One, for Josh Allen and the Bills to kind of know what their ceiling is, but also to know for the Chiefs, because there's never a good comparison for Patrick Mahomes. But looking at what Josh Allen can do as a freak athlete and with that cannon of an arm, when Josh Allen's at his ceiling, that's the type of explosion, particularly when Stephon Diggs is running down the middle of the field and just killing him.
He played crazy good on Sunday night. He was double-digit receptions were 9, something like that. I can look it up here. Right?
Yeah, he's so good, and that threat is the type of thing that is like, okay, you're a good defense that has shut down a lot of teams. They can make big plays. But can you shut down this explosive of an offense for 4 quarters? And the Steelers found out, at least in this one, that wasn't the case with Josh Allen. Well, what do you think the case is going to be when it's Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense rolling in? That's not a good sign for the Steelers, as at this point, it's not even we have to worry about getting past the Chiefs. Now it's looking like the Chiefs are going to steal your bye week, your home field advantage, and you'll still have to find a way to get past them. That's a very bad sign for a Steelers team as Josh Allen comes in and takes care of business.
So it is 10 catches for 130 yards and 1 touchdown for Stephon Diggs the other night. I know, insane. But to talk about the Steelers side of things, I was going to mention that I think it's also the personnel side of things. You don't have the receivers that you used to have. You don't have Antonio Brown anymore. Antoine Randall is not walking through that door anytime soon.
I think they have better players than Antoine Randall, but
you don't have Willie Parker. You don't have Hines Ward walking through the door anytime soon.
Okay, you should have went with Antonio Brown and then thrown Hines Ward. I don't know what you were doing in the middle there. They have good receivers. Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson can argue with Antoine Randall, and who was the other one?
Of the Super Bowl Parker? Against the Seahawks when he threw the touchdown pass to Hines Ward. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't. Well, Antonio Brown wasn't on that team. I don't know what the hell. I know he wasn't, but well, so if you're gonna name guys that are better than they have good options. The problem is they don't. They have a predictable offense, and Big Ben can't throw it down the field. Like it's not the wide receiver. Now, could they have better ones? Would they be better with somebody like Antonio Brown? Probably. But
yes.
They have 2 top flight wide receivers. The problem is the running game. The problem is they can't throw. And when you put all those together, you have to have a lights out defense. And as good as this defense looks at times, they haven't been lights out at shutting down a high powered offense.
Right. And that comes from the offense is not doing enough to where the defense is being put in too many tall task situations to where they're going to get tired. And I mean, that's just the way it goes. But I don't know. We knew Pittsburgh wasn't going to go undefeated this year. So is it really surprising to see them lose 2 in a row? No, because it's the name of the NFL. I mean, you're not going to win every game. So, but I guess maybe we would have saw them maybe lose 1 or 2 early on in the season instead of now, and you would maybe think Pittsburgh would get on a typical type of Pittsburgh run, because they normally do this every year at this time of the year where they get on the run and then they'll start playing well towards the playoffs and make their run towards another Super Bowl appearance. But and as far as Big Ben is concerned, I think he is done. I think you're starting to see the cracks in him. Of course, you're coming off arm surgery. Maybe he's still not fully recovered, even though we heard at the beginning of the year, oh, I feel great. Oh, I feel better than ever before. Okay, BS. Okay, don't kid us. Don't, because we know you're not fully healed, and it takes forever for your body to heal from a kind of surgery like that. So, no, I think Big Ben is done. I mean, he could maybe still play maybe a year or two if he wanted to, but I think he's personally done. So Pittsburgh, I think it's a tough road for them. They can still get a home playoff game if they win their division. I still think the Browns, yes, I still think the Browns can make a run at it. I know you're shaking your head there, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what they do down the stretch of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's just mathematically, it's
impossible. So, no, it's not going to happen.
It's not that it won't. It's just that it's a very thin margin at this point. And if they would have won, if they would have beat the Ravens, then it was still a tall task for the Browns to steal it away. Now it's tough. It's just with the Steelers, we've seen teams do this before where if you start out really good early, but, part of it was the schedule. Part of it is, as your team keeps, suffering these losses, you keep, just not being able to fix those issues as you go into the playoff time. Backing into the playoffs is going to be troublesome. And the only teams that really benefit from that and find a way to make it through, you need that bye week. And now the Chiefs aren't going to let them have it. So you're not going to get that rest. I wonder how many of the Steelers' issues are because they had to have 3 games in 14 days or whatever it was.
Absolutely. That is a huge factor. I will definitely include that. But at the same time, it's so weird to see a Mike Tomlin coach team play like this. You're not used to this. I mean, crap, Pittsburgh's the only team to have 3 head coaches in the last 40 plus years. I mean, look at the continued success that franchise has had over the years. It's just it's insane. I mean, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. I mean, you just every year you expect the Steelers to be right up there with among the best. And well, I think Steelers fans are going to have to wake up to the reality that this is not their year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to be tough for him. So I'm trying to look and see what's the next game. I think, God, that really was all that matters. Is there any of the other games, whether even just stories? Because, we got obviously, Washington, we have them, they keep winning and that's looking good. You have Jalen Hurts getting that first win going up against the Saints. Saints loss there. So that's probably the most important. I think there are other games that a few things are interesting storylines, but I think we'll talk about that. And then we'll probably just jump straight to Chiefs Dolphins, because I think that's the last thing that really, is important to us. But, you got the Eagles and you got Saints. So the first thing I'll just ask you is, you were pretty negative on Carson Wentz. I was pretty negative on Taysom Hill. This should be fun for us to jump in, but Carson Wentz gets replaced by Jalen Hurts. And, this has been a Saints team, even without Drew Brees. They keep getting it done. So Jalen Hurts was the first one that took this Eagles team, but it just looks like there's new life for him. I don't even know how much better Jalen Hurts is than Carson Wentz. All I know is the difference between the two. You can't tell me it was just they came in with a good game plan finally. That looks like a completely different team when it's Jalen Hurts back there, giving them life, giving them belief, and it ends up becoming a victory over one of the best teams in the NFC. What was your biggest takeaway? Is it just that Carson Wentz is extra bad and there's no more excuses because a rookie quarterback showed that it wasn't just about the talent around him?
I think there is some of that, but I think we have to also include the Saints in this, that they have a tendency to lay down against lower opponents sometimes, and this was a good example of a Saints team that is far better, far more superior than the Eagles, and they lay down their shield. They absolutely just let the Eagles get this victory. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he looked pretty good for his first full start. 17 of 30 for 167 and a touchdown And I think we even saw some of his ability when he runs the ball. I mean,
a lot. 18 rushes, the most of a quarterback this year, I believe. 106 rushing yards, and the other part is it's not just that production, because the passing stats are all right. They're not great. It's a good start, and you saw some good things as a rookie quarterback, but that wasn't where he hung his hat. It was the rushing, and then the fact that rushing attack, the way that they did, and the fact they had to account for him, opened up Miles Sanders to have one of his best games of the year. 115 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. That was the difference in getting them to that point. Now, in fairness to the Saints, that's a rejuvenized Eagles offensive attack that you weren't prepared for. You don't have a lot of tape on. You lose by 3. You got yourselves in it. I know it's hard to figure out, okay, with garbage time, you get that final touchdown to get yourself back in the game. But the point being, you have your backup quarterback. If a game where the Eagles play out of their minds with they made a change, it's not just like a bad Eagles offense beat them. This is a completely different Eagles offense. You have to reevaluate what it means to let them put up 24 points. I think I wouldn't take much away from the Saints at this point. Let's see what happens this week. Let's see the next week. I will take a lot away from, at the very least for the Eagles, this was the right move. You have to see what you can build with Jalen Hurts. The problem being that contract for Carson Wentz is an albatross that I'm not sure they can get away from. So I'm not sure what the solution is. You already seen Doug Peterson playing down how well Jalen Hurts did, not wanting to give him too much credit. And he doesn't want to get stuck with him when he knows it's not going to be easy to transition to Jalen Hurts. You can't just write off Carson Wentz. It's going to be a lot more complicated than that.
We'll see. But hey, if this is going to be what it is with Jalen Hurts. I mean, why take him out and go back to Carson Wentz? Because I mean, he may just be what they need, and of course we'll see going to next year. But one last thing on the Saints: how do you not recover that onside kick? I know there was it was a crowded situation. I know it was kind of an awkward kick, but it's right there. It's right there for the taking. He should have had it. That's all I'm saying.
I never hold anybody accountable for missing onside kicks. It is when a receiving team just stands there and watches as it's taken away. So
yeah,
I'm going to cancel
like the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm going to cancel it out. I'm gonna say that no for ripping on him for that, because I think whatever the situation is, you just try it. It works. It doesn't. Whatever. The only one who can be ripped on is the receiving team, because they have the most advantage in that situation. So it's when they fail, particularly when it's not from an amazing play, but they just aren't paying attention, don't know the rules, don't figure it out. In this case, though, biggest takeaway for me: Eagles with Jalen Hurts should be fun to watch at the very least, and it's good. This is probably a good time of the year to kind of experiment, see what he can do, and then it's just going to be tough, because I don't think there's a easy way to move on from Carson Wentz at this point in time. So we'll see what they decide to do from here. That's all that matters to me. I was going to make fun of Drew Lock for a bit, just about him having his second best game. It's like this is only the second time he's had a good game. Of course, it happens as I tried to stream in the Panthers defense, which was just one of the many reasons I got bounced in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. But Drew Lock, he looks good when a defense isn't ready, doesn't play very well. And if he doesn't have to think a lot, he has the physical tools. He put up 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. He has a lot of weapons back there. So I just have to ask you right now, Justin, do you think that Drew Lock, he's a young guy, you think he's going to be able to figure it out, particularly when he has these weapons around him to try to, go forward? Is the story already written on Drew Lock, or is this another sign that we need to give Drew Lock a little bit more time?
Well, to pick on the Broncos, just because we are Chiefs fans, I think his story of being a Bronco is said and done. I think he can go elsewhere and maybe have a much better chance. I don't think it's going to work in Denver. I don't personally. I mean, when Elway when they drafted Judy and is it Hamler from
Hamler's one of the guys, yeah,
from Penn State. I don't know. I wasn't so high on that. and they're just trying to copy off what the Chiefs are trying to do. And I know it's what you got to do. You got to try to get some new, fresh blood of offense to try to compete with the Chiefs because that's what they're best at is offense. So I get it, but I don't see it with Drew Lock. There's been too much inconsistency, a lot of interceptions, a lot of bad decision making, and most of all, go on a team that has a real head coach. Okay, Vic Fangio is what he is. He is like what Gunther Cunningham was. I mean, he's just a coordinator by nature, and most coordinators that try to turn to the head coaching side don't really usually end up doing very well. I mean, Gunther, 16 years ago as Chiefs head coach for 2 years. I mean, okay, not great. Vic Fangio so far hasn't been that great. They tried Vance Joseph the last time. That was a disaster in Denver. So I guess the one good success was Gary Kubiak, who's been a coordinator all his years on offense, and he was head coach for 1 year, and they won it all. But you had Peyton Manning, you had a great defense to really back you up. But I'm just saying, overall point is I think Fangio is not suited to be a head coach, and I think Drew Lock needs a better system around him in order to have potential more success. So, story in Denver. It's been written, done, and Locke needs to go elsewhere.
He's in his second year in the league, man. Like,
I'm telling you, that's how I feel.
Well, okay. I don't even understand the coordinator. Like, so they can't pick a coordinator of an offense or a defense. Who are they supposed to pick? Supposed to get like a tight ends coach?
I don't know, man, but it's a mess in Denver.
I think you're just describing Denver as a mess, which is fine. It's just, I think part of that is, you gotta get a quarterback, and you gotta make it work. And I think with Drew Lock, like when you can have a game like that doesn't tell you he will be a success, but it does tell you that the pieces are there. So the question is, how do you put it together? I think they have a lot of the weapons, and then it's it's kind of.
Okay, so
put yourself in a situation like whether you have like I would say the comparison is like having a Ryan Tannehill in Miami or having a quarterback like Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
I think Blake Bortles, it didn't really matter who you put as a coordinator, who you put down there coaching.
It wasn't good.
I think it was going to fail.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, I felt at the time that it was the coaching. I felt like part of it, and this is before I realized Adam Gase was
in ownership too.
Well, ownership, it can affect you, and it can affect who you're putting around. But I think at the end of the day, when you're trying to groom a quarterback, it's really about who's in his ear, who's his quarterback coach, who's the offensive coordinator, what are they trying to do to make it work. And even at that time, before I realized that Adam Gase was as epically bad as he's been, I thought like, well, Tannehill seems like if you put him in the right situation, there's a lot of good things there. It's just not clicking, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're right, if Vic Fangio is a problem, and I don't even know who they got as offensive coordinator right now because I don't really care. But
Pat Shurmur, the former Giants head coach.
So of course,
because his son, he's a former Chiefs quarterback, is now there. So
that probably not a good move. I think Drew Lock, if you're looking at this, and you're John Elway, right, and you already know, okay, all of the positive I got from the years we got Peyton Manning to get us to be at the top of the division a few years, to be able to go to the Super Bowl, like that. Whatever positive people gave him as the GM, that's faded. That's not how they view you. If you're going to make a move and you're going to find a way to fix this, it probably is Vic Fangio. But before you just waste 4 years and Drew Lock is dead to rights and you just have to move on from his contract, draft a new quarterback that's not going to work, like it might be smart. You need to do everything you can to bring in a mind that you think can actually make Drew Lock better. Sort of like what happened when Ryan Tannehill, went to the Titans and they found a way to get the most out of him. That's where I think Drew Lock is. You can't expect him to be a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You can't expect him to be even a top 10 quarterback other than he might be able to pull down top 10 stats when you have Jerry Jeudy around him. You have Noah Fant. You have right now, Melvin Gordon out of the backfield, but really running backs just have some guys. And like all you really need to do is find a coordinator that actually gets the most out of him. And right now, clearly, Vic Fangio and Pat Shermer, they're not the guys. They're not doing it. No. So I would say before you ever jump to move on from Drew Lock, who was a second-year player, and you just watch throw up 4 touchdowns, it's get guys around him that are going to be more likely to set him up to do this week in and week out, rather than what we do see, which is, okay, if you put it on him to think and figure it out, yeah, he's made some bad decisions, but you don't have to. We've seen it work where those limitations, whether it's a Jared Goff, whether it's a Ryan Tannehill, you can get around it as long as the offensive coordinator is doing his job. Clearly, they're not in Denver. But that's all I have for that game. Is there another game before? Do we just want to go straight to Chiefs and talk about what happened in that Dolphins game?
Well, I kind of hate to. Well, let's not really talk about this game, but I was kind of surprised that the Giants, their lackluster effort against the Cardinals.
Were you?
I was a little surprised. I mean, they've been kind of riding kind of high, recently. The defense been playing very well, but of course, we know what the Cardinals are capable of doing when they are, when things are going well, especially the offense. But the Cardinals defense actually kind of came out and played pretty well. They got a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones, and of course, eventually Colt McCoy had to come in and play because I think Jones got hurt, didn't he? Or did he just get pulled? Because he was just so bad.
I think we're back to like that Tua situation from earlier in the year. It's like he may have been banged up a little bit. It's also like for his own safety, pull him out of this game. What they finished with, Cardinals had like 8 sacks or something. Like it was crazy. It was devastating. And Colt McCoy, who came in and got him a victory the week before. It's hard to just throw him out there after you've already gone into the week saying, "All right, Daniel Jones is ready. He's going to be our guy." No. So they were both in a bad situation. They both get absolutely murdered. And then Cardinals, it's just tough for me. Like as much as the Giants were finding a way to win, the Giants weren't impressing me the last few weeks. So I'm not going to like pretend that the just because they had a win streak that it's like, wow, this is a great win. It's good for the Cardinals because they weren't finding a way to win no matter who it was. Now the Cardinals are back on track. And even if they don't make it into the playoffs, it's a good sign for them that you can get Kyler Murray to have the type of day he had, 244 yards, a touchdown, and then didn't do a lot of damage on the ground, but back to 47 yards. It's better than he had been doing last few weeks. So
let me ask you this, Mac. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are you officially now done having the Giants being the favorite to win the NFC least? Are you going to finally jump on my bandwagon and go with Washington?
Did I not jump last week?
I thought you were still on the Giants because you were talking about the.
I was saying strength schedule. I was telling you where they were at. I said I was leaning with Washington because it wasn't even about whether they would win. It was the better story. But I said based on the schedule, there's a reason to think with the Giants winning that at the very least. But I was worried that a game like the Cardinals, they had no chance of winning. So there were going to be limited opportunities for the Giants to push ahead. With Washington, keep getting the wins. They didn't get that sleeper loss to the 49ers. We know Kyle Shanahan can pull that out, even if it's Nick Mullins back there, quarterback. We know they're capable of doing that. Really, the tough one right now, it is the Eagles. The biggest problem right now is what? The Eagles are 4-8-1. Did Washington get to 5 wins? They had 6.
6.
So right now, Washington is in a good place, and they should be able to do it. They have Seahawks this week. That's going to be tough. They got the Panthers, who at this point are bad enough. That should be an easy win. But then they face the Eagles that final week, right?
Hey, so that defense of Washington is carrying this team. Chase Young and company, they're playing their tails off right now. So don't be stunned if they go and beat the Seahawks. Seahawks are not playing very well right now. Of course, we are obviously seeing the end of the Russell Wilson MVP talks, obviously.
That's over. That's been over for like 4 weeks.
Right. It's been over for quite a while. The point is, Washington, I think they could beat Philly, even with Jalen Hurts in there now as their quarterback. And of course, we'll see when they do play if Hurts is going to be the starter or not. But regardless, I don't really think the Washington football team has a tough road. I think they could possibly go maybe 9-7. Maybe.
No, nope. But 7 wins. Seven wins get you there, and if you get 8, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to fight that hard because no other team, the Eagles can't. Like, I think at this point, the Eagles, this is going to be an important one against the Cardinals. Like, if the Eagles can pull that off, then it becomes tough for Washington because the Eagles will have the Cowboys, and then they'll have a chance to go in and be able to take back the division from Washington. That's some pressure. Otherwise, it's already over. It's Washington's division. The big thing is because that Cowboys game, that's a freebie to get the Eagles to inch closer, and so it's not quite over yet. Giants are definitely
I will give actually one little nugget on maybe things being tough for Washington. I really want to say Redskins. I really do. I miss it.
Just don't.
But I know. So Washington football team is the Alex Smith situation. Is he going to be able to go back out there and play? We saw the bloody leg or sock, whatever we want to call it. He came out this past weekend. I forget what the cause was, the injury. Do you remember what the injury was to Alex?
No, but I mean, at this point, he wasn't playing very well before it happened. It was a tough. Like, they got the win, but they're not looking great. But I mean, that's the best part about being in the NFC least. You don't have to look great down the stretch, and that defense is just murdering people. So
I think having his abilities of what he still can do, having his leadership there, his stability in the quarterback position instead of having a young QB like Dwayne Haskins who really can't get the job done at this point. I think he'd rather have Smith still in there. So that's why I'm kind of bringing this up as a point to where maybe things could be tough for Washington. But I'm still riding high on them because that defense, as we have talked about, is just playing lights out.
Yeah, I still don't think that if Washington plays the way they played offense this last week against the Seahawks, like, Seahawks isn't a great defense.
They could end up losing the game possibly.
Yeah, but Washington isn't that offense isn't going to be enough to take down a Seahawks team. So
I agree.
Even with the way Washington plays on defense, I don't know how much they'll slow down Russell Wilson. I think that's Seahawks. Like, we'll get to bets in a bit, but I'd go easily the Seahawks, which once again opens the door up for the Eagles, who once you have the 2 divisional games, makes it a lot easier to try to scratch and claw your way back into that one. But let's talk Chiefs Dolphins. I can't believe we got this far in the podcast and haven't actually talked about our team yet, other than the random references that will always come up because the Chiefs are the standard bearer right now. Not only are they the reigning champs, they are the best team in the NFL right now. Patrick Mahomes is the best, although now we're getting the rumblings is the week of, is it Aaron Rodgers? Because Patrick Mahomes had 3 interceptions, and that door opens back up just slightly. But it's so weird to think, like, this is one of Patrick Mahomes' worst games at one point in time. This was a game where they were down 10. Then it's a game they're up 28-10. Then they are holding on to the end of the game. That's a game where Patrick Mahomes 3 interceptions, where one was a ridiculous, out of this world catch. So I'm not going to hold it against. Yeah, I'm not
outstanding play.
Not going to hold it against Patrick Mahomes. On the other hand, the 2 tips. So the announcers were saying it like both tips. Like, well, the ball got tipped. So it's like one was on the wide receiver. The first one was on Patrick Mahomes. So don't pretend because it was a tip, it wasn't his fault.
The first one was a dumb play call. It was stupid.
Well, I mean, the play, like, you do that. Once again, I'm not going to say it's a stupid play call to call a screen because we know how often screens work, how often they work for Andy Reid. Let's stop pretending it's not the play call, but they snuffed it out. Dolphins, they get in front of it, and Patrick Mahomes thought, maybe I can just fire it past him. No, he got his hand up, tipped it, it goes flying, and that's one of the few mistakes I've seen Patrick Mahomes really make. Like, it's not very often, but that was one of them. And, that's tough for you. Once again, to be even when the Dolphins are coming back and people talked about it, like it was like, well, here's the Chiefs again, just barely holding on to win. At no point did I think the game was in jeopardy. The only thing in jeopardy was the spread, because of course it was. And at the end of the day, you're looking and you're like, well, the Chiefs, they just keep barely winning, just barely. They're still the leader in points differential this year. So for a team that's always winning by the hair of their chinny chin chin, I think they're doing fine. And this is a Dolphins game. I think we knew what it was. We think we knew that defense. The fact that the defense is as good as it was and made Patrick Mahomes make mistakes, and Patrick Mahomes still. It was three touchdowns in like a minute or something. Like, that is what the Chiefs do. The best defense is going to stop them. So now I don't know why anybody's concerned. That's not saying the Chiefs will win again. That's not saying that they're going to win their second Super Bowl 2 in a row. But I have no fears now as a Chiefs fan. If we want to nitpick and we want to worry about the pass rush and we want to worry about this and that, fine. Go for it. It's fun. It fills our time. But if you're actually losing sleep over it, if you're pulling your hair out, I just sit back and have fun, guys, because if you're a Chiefs fan watching this, this should be the best for you. This is all house money at this one. You just got a Super Bowl last year. We're in a pandemic year. We got COVID-19, and you get to watch your Chiefs play with so little pressure on them, even when things aren't going right. It just seems like this is the coolest team, and not even cool like the Steelers. It's like those are two teams, Chiefs and Steelers, top of the AFC, where the Steelers were finding ways to win games, but they didn't look explosive. They didn't look like they were putting fear into every team they played. They didn't look like they were calm about it. They just looked like at the end of the game they won, and they're like, yeah, we won. The Chiefs, the whole time, it doesn't matter what the situation is, nobody looks frazzled. Nobody looks up, and sure enough, most of the time they win. And while there's a chance they can lose, because it's football, any given Sunday, if you're looking at a team, it is the Chiefs or bust at this point. Put your money down on them. That's the only bet that matters, and everything else is it's just football, baby. Have fun and watch.
So a couple of things. I'm going to start out with probably the stat of the day that I heard. Was it Monday on the program with Seren Petro on 810? I think it was Monday, or it might have been yesterday he brought this up. So I think since 2010, I think this was coming into the game on Sunday, teams were 1-99 when was it they're trailing.
I think teams that are down 10, they don't win.
20.
And the Chiefs are astronomically great at when they're down 10. It
was insane.
Phenomenal.
It was insane. I think the best way to describe this team is they're a light switch. I mean, when they're on, they're just pounding you in the passing game nonstop. They are throwing touchdowns, bombs left and right, just pushing their will against you, and they're scoring like crazy. And then, of course, the defense is playing well. But then when the switch goes off, you kind of see some of the little issues kind of pop up. The play calling can be a little, crazy sometimes. The defense gets out of place sometimes. You see the cracks in the run defense. Just the small little things. And then, of course, the penalties, of course, can be a problem sometimes too with this team. But no, Mac, I'm going to go back to what you were just talking about. I agree with you. And there really is no reason why we should just be pulling our hair out and thinking the sky is falling, because this team is so good, and we have to enjoy this because we're about to embark on a potential dynasty, and we're going to see a lot of great football for years to come here in Kansas City. So I agree with you that we should just be, cool, calm, collective, and we should just enjoy this ride, man. I agree with you.
Yeah, and the sky is falling thing. One, a lot of the stuff you mentioned is like little things. It's like, they messed this up. You're describing a football team. You're describing great football teams. Great football teams have issues, the little things, whatever that thing is. There are very few teams that look perfect, particularly in the salary cap era.
The Patriots, when they were on their dynasty run for the last 20 years, they were never perfect at times. they had little miscues there and there, and they had games where they didn't look very good. Go back to a couple of games at Arrowhead, for example, the Monday night game when the Chiefs reset the noise record. Brady was awful, and of course it led to all the talk. Oh, Brady's done. No, it's Garoppolo. He's the guy now. No, it just turned out that they just needed a good butt kicking in order to regroup and get right back to what they were.
Every year, the Patriots, we found a way to talk ourselves into they weren't going to do it this year. Here's the things that are wrong. But once again, finding cracks in a NFL team, literally all of them. There are no teams, even the undefeated regular season Patriots, and not just because they end up losing to the Giants in the Super Bowl, but there are cracks. There are things to exploit. Now, when you have less than every other team, such as the Chiefs, or in this case, I wouldn't even say they have less weaknesses than other teams, but Patrick Mahomes is the ultimate patchwork. He is we should call him Patchwork Mahomes. He keeps this team together. It is not like whatever those problems are, they don't matter because what Patrick Mahomes does on a football field, and you say it as a light switch, which is the scariest part because it's not even so much like, I think of it like some players are really good at times, but it's random, With Patrick Mahomes, it isn't random. The moment they need him to be great, he takes over, So it's like, it'd be one thing if it was like accidental or you couldn't count on it. It is clockwork. Like when you need it, Patrick Mahomes will do it. Now, is he going to be doing it the whole time? It would be fun if he did. But for all as we saw with a team like the Steelers,
he's human.
Sometimes when you try to go all the time, like you're going to have players get hurt down the stretch. What you want, and I made a similar argument for Frank Clark when people were really getting on to like, oh, the pass rush isn't there. It's like, all I know is Frank Clark delivered it in the playoffs last year. All I know is the Chiefs defense figured it out down the stretch. And most of the time, they haven't. The Chiefs have fallen apart in so many of those things. Times when they looked great, at some point in the regular season, they couldn't get it going at the right time. I know for the Chiefs that Patrick Mahomes, at the right time, he'll come through. He'll make things happen. And everything else, it'll fluctuate. It'll change. And we don't need him to go 100 miles per hour throughout the whole regular season. We need him to go 100 miles per hour in the playoffs, and we saw what happened last year when he did it. So I'm perfectly content with watching them win all but one game this year. Like, and just whatever ends up happening, as long as they can get that bye week, and even if they don't, the Chiefs are probably the team I think at least concerned with if they didn't get the bye week. It's like, well, I guess they just got to win one more game on their path to the Super Bowl. I have no concerns for the Chiefs right now. But that's all we have for the NFL Week 14 slate. Now we're going to jump to NFL bets because I do want to have – it's going to be a short little topic on NBA, but we're going to jump in. It's not going to be max fast action bets because, as I said earlier, those McRibs did a number on me, and I'm just going to have to slowly pace myself through this. But I will start going down the list. We're going to start with the Thursday game. We got Chargers, Raiders. Raiders are -3. This is I'll just let you go, but I find it interesting that right now the Raiders are -3. Justin, who you got?
This is a tough one. This is really tough. And I know, I said it earlier that I'm going to keep beating this dead horse about the Raiders and being in this tailspin like they were last year. And, of course, this is another edition of that this year so far. I don't know, man. This is so hard. I guess give me the silver and black, I guess, but this will be a tight knit game. But I guess to end my prediction, I guess look for Anthony Lynn and the Chargers to do something stupid at the end to give the Raiders the victory. This is gonna be hard.
This isn't hard for me at all. I'm going Chargers. I think.
Okay.
Raiders have lost 4 straight, and the Chargers this last week, they beat the Falcons 2017. I think where the Falcons were at, even with the bad record being 4-9 now after that loss, I think they had actually gotten most of their ducks in a row. They were playing much better at this portion of the season. Raiders, if you can't beat the Jets, no matter what the team lined up, it's not like those 4 losses have come against a murderer's row. I mean,
You mean barely beat the Jets? Barely.
Well, yeah, they didn't beat the Jets. The Jets beat the Jets. So, like, they lost that game. They got the win. They lost that game. They've lost 4 weeks in a row in my mind. I'm not changing the opinion. That's what happened to the Raiders.
That's fair.
They got a freebie in the win column, but like they have been awful for 4 weeks. Like you have to go back to the Broncos game, 37-12, to have any semblance of the Raiders playing well. Since then, the 35-31 against the Chiefs, I'll give them that as a good game, but you end up getting the loss, spanked by the Falcons. We just mentioned the Jets game. Colts beat them 44-27. Like at this point in time, I think the Chargers beating the Falcons, who, like I said, Falcons beat them 43-6. Until the Raiders show me otherwise, I think the Chargers are in a much better place, even with how bad Anthony Lynn is, because the Raiders aren't making too many good decisions either.
I know, man.
I'm taking the Chargers easy.
I really wanted to lean towards the Bolts, but I don't know.
It's too late. You're locked in with the Raiders.
I don't want to make the change. I'm just telling you. I was wanting to, but something just tells me the Chargers are going to find a way to give it away, and the Raiders will be riding home.
I thought the same thing against the Falcons, but remember, sometimes bad luck cancels out. Cancel out in that one. Chargers just end up being the better team. I don't think the Falcons are any more snake bitten than the Raiders are. So at this point in time, I will hold the Chargers, and I might have to eat my words. We'll see. We're getting to that end of the year where we're starting to get some Saturday games. We got a double header there with Bills Broncos as the first game. We got the Bills -6 on the road. Justin, who you got?
Needs to be more than -6 in my mind. Buffalo, big, no question about it.
I'll have to see. Like I said, I think the tough thing for me here is with the way the Broncos played against the Panthers, I don't think the Buffalo Bills are that good of a defense. So if the Broncos are getting to that point, if they're putting Drew Lock in a position to take advantage of the weapons, and the only thing that's going to stop them is a good defense, I'm not sure the Bills are that. But if the game turns into a shootout, I think it's more likely for Drew Lock to start making the mistakes much faster, Bills to start packing on the lead, and I think with the -6, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to take the points, but I'll take it because I think the Bills should be able to win this one by a couple touchdowns.
Let's make something clear. The Bills do have a much better, superior defense than Carolina.
But not enough to be like they're going to shut down whoever they face, right? So I will willing to say until I see what Drew Lock does right now, where it wasn't just playing a bad defense. They were smarter play calling with Drew Lock in that game. Let's see what happens when it is a slightly better defense. But I think even more important is if this is a shootout, this is the type of game where I think Josh Allen can push this thing out to a couple touchdowns, taking advantage of Stephon Diggs, more than I think Drew Lock is going to be able to keep up pace. Next game up, Panthers-Packers. We just mentioned how bad the Panthers are right now, particularly when, as much as Mike Davis is coming through, without Christian McCaffrey out there, it's not the same type of offense. Defense isn't doing good. That's why the Packers have a -8.5 at home in this game. The other part of that is the Packers are playing really good right now. Justin, who do you got?
Yep. Go Pack Go, as the crowd always chants at Green Bay games. Go Pack Go.
I feel like at this point, Packers have won the last 3 weeks. Packers-Lions was by 7. Yeah, I hate taking that many points, but I think at this point, I'd have to see the Packers actually have a bad game played down to opponent enough this late in the season that I'm like, okay, at this point, the Packers, when they face bad teams, have come in, taking care of business. I think the Lions as a 7-point, I think that's more about Matt Stafford still having a little bit left in the tank. I'll say on this one, I'll go with Packers and eat the points, but it's tough for me.
It's facing the better quality teams that Green Bay's had a little trouble with recently.
So we got Buccaneers, Falcons. The Buccaneers are -6 heading into Atlanta. Justin, who do you got?
This is going to be a good game too. We'll see if the Falcons continue their ride of playing tough against certain teams. I'll say give me Tampa Bay, but I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk for the Buccaneers. This is going to be a good, interesting game, to say the least. But give me Give me the Buccaneers.
All right. Knowing that the Buccaneers are 8-5, they are sneaking up on a 10-3 Saints team. Like when you're in that position, when you're like, hey, we're in do or die mode, I think that puts you where Buccaneers are going to think, hey, there's a good chance Saints lose today. We need this one. We got to win. And this is a Falcons team you got to beat. I think they're going to be more focused than you usually get when you're facing a team that's not this good this late in the season. Usually you get that trap game. I don't think so. I think they come in and beat the brakes off them. I'm going to go the Bucks. 49ers, Cowboys, and this is 49ers -3 heading in to Dallas.
Give me the Niners. That's better overall talent, even though they've got so many banged up players this year. Kyle Shanahan's going to wipe the floor with Mike McCarthy. So give me San Francisco. It'll be, I won't say a blowout, but I think the Niners can win maybe by 10 points at least, maybe. But Cowboys, no, not going to win.
I feel like at some point it just becomes teams that have something to fight for and teams that don't. And as much as the 49ers keep putting up the fight, I think, they're better overall record, but the Cowboys are the only one that's still in the back of their mind. They're like, can we make the playoffs? Can we steal the division? Are they officially out yet? If they win on 3, Cowboys still have a chance, right? I'm going to go Cowboys.
Yeah, they got a chance, but...
Well, the question is, as long as it's mathematical, I think the Cowboys have more to play for. I'm willing to think that they're more invested in making this work. And with it being, give me a +3 on that pick, I'm willing to take it. Lions, Titans. Titans are -11 at home. Justin, who do you got?
Tighten up. It's blowout.
I just watched the Lions keep up with the Packers. Matt Stafford ready to go. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. Texans, Colts, and the Colts are -7.
Give me Indy, but I'd say it may be a far more competitive game, maybe, than what some are maybe thinking.
Nope. Colts by like 4 touchdowns. At this point, after what I just saw from the Texans, unless there's some healthy players that they didn't have this last week, I'm not ready to think the Texans can do anything. So yeah, no way. Just give me the Colts on that one. Patriots, Dolphins. Dolphins are -2 at home.
Give me the Dolphins to finally put an end to the charging Patriots and their playoff hopes. Nighty-night, New England.
Give me Patriots.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think, once again, Dolphins, they came in, they marked it on the schedule just like everybody else did, this Chiefs game. Normally, you'd mark the Patriots, but this was a year where they didn't. Patriots, they've had weeks where they look great, weeks where they haven't looked good at all. I think the perfect time for them to look great is heading into Miami when Miami just came off that deflating loss to the Chiefs. Like, I think that's the perfect time. I'm going to take the Patriots. Bears, Vikings.
Sorry, Mac, but just kind of like how the Raiders have played since they lost to the Chiefs.
I don't expect the Dolphins to be trash for the next 4 weeks. I do think that, particularly when you're facing a Patriots team like this, you got the Bill Belichick versus Brian Flores factor. I think all those things put together, rookie quarterback if Tua's in, I'm going Patriots. Bears, Vikings. We got the Vikings are -3 at home.
Give me the Vikings. The Bears had their come out party against the Texans last weekend. The Bears defense will be ready. They'll play hard, but the Bears offense is just too inconsistent. And the Vikings, they've gotten themselves back into this playoff race after a very slow start. 2-5, something like that, and they were pretty much ridden off. And they've made their way back, and they played a lot better recently. So give me the purple people.
They just lost to the Bucks by 12. Vikings 2 weeks before that. They got a win over the Jags and a win over the Panthers.
The ghost of Gary Anderson popped in Minnesota.
I'm not counting those wins as being back on the right track after losing to the Cowboys 31-28 a few weeks before that. Nope, never bet Kirk Cousins. I know this is like a face-off of two teams not to bet on. Bears are also not a good pick to bet on, but I'm willing to say it's tough. Vikings did get the 6-point victory the last time they faced, but I'm going to go with the Bears on this one.
They do play better at home than they do on the road. I mean, can we at least give them that maybe?
This is a tough one. I think right now I'll just go with the Bears because I can't break my streak of never betting on Kirk Cousins. Seahawks, Washington. Seahawks -5.5 going on the road. Who do you got in this one, Justin? You were talking a lot of smack earlier. You're going to put your money where your mouth is? Do you think the Washington's going to get the win here?
I think with it being a home game for Washington, I'll just give them. I'll give them the victory for it being a home game. If it was on the road in Seattle, and I know there's no crowd, there's no 12th man there to really make it really tough for the Seahawks. I mean, for the opposing team to give the Seahawks the home edge. But with this being a home game for Washington, I think they can win this. And then the defense, I'll just keep riding that coattail with the defense that they're just playing so well. And I'm just kind of waiting to see Russell Wilson and company get kind of back on track to where they were early in the year. And that hasn't been the case here recently. So give me the fighting Ron Rivera's.
I'm going to go Seahawks. This is in the sweet spot of, I think Washington with their offense not playing well, it's hard to pick them. But with the points, I might have taken it. I might have gone for a 3-point Washington loss. But Seahawks it's closer to being like a 6-point win. That's usually what they have, is like the other team could go down the field on the last play, score a touchdown, an extra point, and get the victory. I think it would be 5.5. It's like, that's just right where I need it to be. I'm going to take the Seahawks to win by not even 7. They're going to win by exactly 6 points in this game for me. Jaguars, Ravens. This is Ravens -13 at home.
Yeah, Baltimore in a rout. No question about that.
Once again, at this point, Jaguars just eat the points because until they can prove otherwise.
Lamar can take all the time and all the breaks he wants to this time. He can go sit in the porta potty for all the time he wants to now, and they can still win.
I think during this game, I will take a bathroom break. Jets, Rams. We got the Rams -17 at home, and no reason to waste time. I'm taking the Rams and the points on this one. That is a ridiculous number, and I still feel safe taking the Rams.
Yes, absolutely. Rams in a rout, just like Baltimore and Jacksonville. Same thing.
We got Eagles, Cardinals. Cardinals are -6 at home.
Give me the Cardinals. And this will be a good game. This will be a good game. But Kyler Murray, with the experience, unlike Jalen Hurts after only just one start last week, give me the Cardinals at home. They know they're fighting for something. I know the Eagles are too. They're fighting for the playoff lives, but I think Cardinals just have far better personnel this year. There's just something that's clicking just a little bit more than the Eagles. There's just been too much inconsistency, too many injuries for the Eagles. I know that Doug Peterson's a better coach than Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't know. I'm feeling the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I even agree that Doug Peterson's proved he's a better coach. But I do know right now that with those points, I was going to play devil's advocate. I thought you were going to lean the Eagles on that. But since you took Cardinals, I'm willing to take the Eagles. I feel like this is going to be one of those close ones, and Cardinals probably get the victory. But I'm not sure if they do it by 6 points. So give me Philly. Chiefs, Saints, Chiefs -3. Healthy Drew Brees, no Drew Brees, Taysom Hill playing well. They just lost to the Eagles. I don't even care. It's Chiefs all the way. The fact that it's even close just makes this easier for me. No doubt in my mind, I'm taking the Chiefs on this one.
Same here. Chiefs all the way. No issues, but I will say it'll be a good game. It'll be a good game.
Nope. Blowout. Taysom Hill, awful. Taken down. I hope so.
You don't think
I got to hope for it.
You don't think Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas, they can?
I think I think they're pretty good. I also know that when we talk about what Steve Spagnuolo can do when he doesn't always, the defense doesn't always have the talent, and there are just certain situations where, we've watched them, have a tough time. I also know that when a team is one-dimensional, when a team is easy to predict, they've found a way to do a pretty good job of taking away whatever they want and forcing them. Hey, even I think back to the Raiders when the Raiders actually beat the Chiefs. It was, hey, we know what you like to do. We're going to take it away, throw over the top and see if you can do it. One game all year, the Raiders pulled it off, got it to Henry Ruggs. They get the victory. Otherwise, it's not happening. I feel like the Saints right now, with the way they play with Taysom Hill, you got more tape on him now. You also know this is how he wants to play. I feel like they can at the very least slow him down. And then I more so than what the defense can do to slow down the Saints offense, I'm hoping that the Chiefs offense just puts up enough points to turn this into a blowout. Browns, Giants, and we got the Browns -5 on the road. Justin, who do you got?
Give me a motivated Browns team. Learning from this close, difficult loss, give me a motivated Browns team to bounce back against a Giants team who witnessed a loss for the first time in a few weeks. So Cleveland all the way.
I think the more important bet would be like Myles Garrett over under 5 sacks in this game. I'd take the over. I'm taking the Browns to crush. I don't think Daniel Jones, if he starts, I don't think he lasts a quarter. Browns are going to get the win in this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then we got Steelers, Bengals. Steelers are -12.5. God, this is a good one. They're messing with me here. Justin, who do you got in this one?
I'll take Pittsburgh just because there's just nothing left for the Bengals. They're I don't know what kind of fight they could put up against Pittsburgh. I know, and we've talked about the Steelers left and right of how much they're struggling, but Bengals are just bad. I mean, without Joe Burrow to save their life, there's nothing there. And I mean, we could possibly end up seeing a coaching change at the end of this year, maybe in Cincinnati. I don't know, but Pittsburgh will win pretty easily.
I don't like taking points, and I don't like it when you have a team that is on the spiral, but you also know that means the Steelers, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this isn't a trap game. They need to get that win. They need to get this train moving again, and to do it against the Bengals team. That's another one of those, like, prove a point that's not really a point. If you can beat the crap out of a Bengals team that everybody's beating the crap out of, I normally wouldn't take the points, but in this one, if they can't, like, forget whether they win this game. If they can't cover the 12.5, I have probably more concerns about the Steelers than I had from just them losing the last 2 weeks. I think just that win will be more disheartening for what I believe the Steelers can do long term this year. So, that's all the games that we have for Week 15. We're going to keep it as short as possible. I just want to talk the NBA, switch it up real fast, hit Giannis signing the 5-year deal. And I know anybody who had listened to our previous podcast, Bobby went in on Milwaukee. Bobby G, one of my main sidekicks, one of the most recurring guests who currently is just working 100% of the time from now until Christmas. So we won't have him on the podcast. We can't get him to come on and, be held to task for some of the awful things he said, let alone this one that he said 0%. This was like less than a month ago. 0% chance Giannis stays in Milwaukee. That take blew up in his face in no time at all. Giannis signs a 5-year deal, Supermax. And when you look at the players that are locked in, you look at, like, there have been players who have signed this, and, you think of like maybe like a Russell Westbrook. Now we got James Harden, like, wanting to be the person pushing his way out while he still has most of the years left on a long contract. But for the most part, you sign this, you're at least there for those years, and maybe like in the last 1 or 2, there ends up being a trade, but you're locked in, and they've, before they locked him in, got the right pieces around him. So that's I think the sky's the limit. I know that when you look at the playoff performances, you have to question it. You have to question what this means. But now I know that they have 3 legit all-stars on their team, 2 guys, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday around Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think when you look at that, it doesn't matter that Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday are not of the same level as some of the other, big, at this point it's tandems. We don't have as many trios in the NBA as we used to. But when you look at the Anthony Davis, LeBron James, then, we can't even talk about Golden State right now because Klay Thompson is injured. But at some point you have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and then they get the cheat code that is Draymond Green. Then, all of these groups, there are ones that are really, really good, but that Bucks team without Drew Holiday was already the best record in the East. And maybe Giannis's game isn't fit for the playoffs, but I feel like you start getting the right guys around him. You keep doing it, and as Giannis keeps learning, because he's still really young, that means you gave yourself 5 more cracks at him having what is arguably the best team in the league, and he gets to feel out the playoff process. And eventually, I mean, it's almost like LeBron having all those years where it's like the East is so easy. It might be more stacked where the East is so awful and the West is murderer's row, that this is such a great thing for Milwaukee that otherwise, if Giannis leaves, there's really nothing. So I don't even know where you want to take it. If you want to take it as a Lakers fan that is looking at it through that prism, if you just want to look at it as, somebody who watches sports and, what does it mean to have a guy like Giannis commit to stay in a place like Milwaukee when it's not that Bobby was wrong. He was just too excited about it and put too low of a percentage on it. But there is that negative aspect of being a small market team. But in this case, Giannis showed very quickly he didn't want them to have to sit there and wait. He said, today, I'm sticking with it. We're going to make this work.
So I'm going to be really quick on this because I need to kind of get out of here as soon as we're done with this. Here's the thing. I think it's really good for Milwaukee being a small market team to be able to keep their star. I think this kind of leads a trend to the future for small markets, to where it lets them think, oh, hey, well, if we get into a situation where we got our big star that we need to possibly lock up or we got to try to fight for, well, we got a chance because, well, we just saw Milwaukee do it, so we can do it too. So I think this really kind of sends it sets up a possible positive trend into the future for other teams. For Milwaukee's sake, what else could you do? I mean, if you want to keep fighting for a trip to the finals, you had to lock up Giannis because he's your best player through and through. And when I saw the deal come down, I was pretty thrilled, to be fair and honest. No negative thoughts at all on this. It was pretty cool.
I think it's cool. I think, in terms of what it does for the team and, it's good. I don't think it sets a trend because it's not going to change that the NBA is positioned to be a players league. They get to make the decision and they get to team up with other guys. And if anything, we talk about Giannis as like a unicorn. That's not just describing him like on the court. In terms of off the court, I mean, he is a foreign-born player. He comes from Greece. He joins this team, and like that's the home he knows. That's the only thing he knows in terms of being in America is that group. And he doesn't have the AAU background, so it's not like, when you see guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, like there's all these guys who have some connections that they've built up over the years. Giannis doesn't have those connections. Like, he's not going to have a guy who came out at the same time as him that he's like, I want to match up with that guy, like something like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And a lot of these, they don't match up exactly, but they still all have that kind of feeling where they'll match up with another really great NBA player. And then they'll get guys that they know that they're like, hey, bring in these guys on whether they're mid-level contracts or really cheap contracts. Like, it's a whole nother ball game. And Giannis, similar, probably, I think Dallas, not a small market team, but they get that kind of same small market in terms of not being a free agent destination. Dallas is one that they're going to get the benefits of having Luka. And that's after 20 years of having the benefits from Dirk doing the same thing. That lack of having the AAU connections makes it where you're less likely to start talking to other players and figuring out, okay, where do I go? What do I do here? There's just a little bit of a more isolatedness to players like Giannis, like Luka, and that probably helped in getting him to stick with Milwaukee. Now, the question is, does his mind change over the years? Because we've heard a lot of guys, whether it's a Russell Westbrook, whether it's a Damian Lillard, you start to get guys who are talking about, like, I want to put my roots down and stay. And even though Russell Westbrook was a decision by the Thunder to move on from him, those things didn't last. They didn't work. Damian Lillard, we'll see if he truly is just going to stay in Portland forever. At this point, maybe, but that also didn't actually work out for him all that well. I mean, you can make the argument because they keep making the playoffs, but if your goal is to win a championship, if you're saying what the Bucks have done so far isn't anything because there's not the playoff success, I'm not sure Portland got anything more out of Dame Lillard sticking it out, on the Trailblazers.
Not so far.
I have more hopes for Giannis, but I also just don't imagine that just because he does it, it probably does give hope to NBA teams. I don't think it gives them any better shot of getting guys in the future. I think it's always specific to that player. What is the thing that drives them? And I think for the most part, most NBA players, it's going to be a couple of things. Bigger city, it's going to be more exposure, it's going to be teaming up with somebody great. I think in terms of sticking with your team, well, you say money. The exposure is the only thing that gives them more money. In the NBA, you're so restricted. You're going to get the same money. You're going to get more, actually, if you stay where you're at, because they built it into the contracts to get more money from your team if you stay there. But you're not going to make more money on advertising if you're out in Milwaukee than you are if you moved and played for LA. So there are these back and forth, whatever it is, but there's just nothing that's going to tie people down to those smaller teams when it's like, would you rather live in Milwaukee or would you rather be on the beaches in LA, in Miami? Would you even when you talk about big market, it's like New York is a big market, but other than Brooklyn, pulling in, Kevin Durant and Kyrie, most of these places, I don't want to be in the cold in New York. People don't want to go play for the Knicks. There are reasons, there are these very tangible, easy to understand reasons that come into play when these players are picking where to go. And all of those are going to affect those small market teams. You're not going to get past that. And, with the rules the way they are, Giannis staying with Milwaukee isn't going to do more than if, say, the NBA makes changes to make it where it's more compelling to stay. They made those changes. They made it where you can make more money on that team. It didn't stop any of these players. They keep joining up super teams in bigger markets, and it's good for Milwaukee. I think it's good for Giannis. Should be fun. Don't really think it changes the way we're going to look at free agency going forward. If anything, all it changes is what free agents are worth. There's going to be some guys like Blake Griffin might get a hell of a contract now because instead of everybody saving money for Giannis, they're like, we got to spend it on somebody, and there's not a lot of good options right now. I guess we're throwing it to that guy. So that's probably the biggest thing that was caused by Giannis making the decision so early. Justin, any last thoughts before we finish up the show and get on out of here? I know you said you needed to make it out.
Yeah, I wasn't lying when I said that. I got to kind of get going, but no, I'm pretty good, man. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity again to be able to be on. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to being back on with you and hopefully Marco and maybe others next time on Tuesday?
Yeah, we should have 2 episodes next week. That's the hope. So we'll be back to our normal hours. Sorry for everybody who wasn't prepared for us to jump on at 7:00 at night on a Wednesday. But, we're just trying to give you more content whenever we can because that's what we're here for. We're here for Too Many Points on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, folks.